But if we can make you a better person, if we can improve so you can be the best that you can be, then that's the important goal.
In this video, you'll meet John Healey, who's the elementary principal at Bond Academy. And in this video, you'll hear him explain how he wants the school to teach kids how to be successful in the real world over how to just do well in school. Hi, I'm here with John Healey, who's the elementary principal at Bond Academy. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. Can you just start by telling us 3 things that you love about your job?
What I love about my job is the people. I have a very dedicated staff, and they care so much about the children, so I love interacting with them every day. I love watching the children learn and interact, and I love the fact that we see a lot of the parents every day. So I have a face-to-face meeting with them, not a formal meeting, but we meet in the hallways, we meet in the after school program. And so all of my answers, I guess, are based around the fact that we work with people and we help people, we make their lives better. And that to me is our goal.
Another theme is just being at the school, just being around the culture. And
Yes, this term 3 with COVID-19 really brings all of that back to reality and brings it to the forefront, basically because of all the comments I've heard, many of them were, we just miss being with everybody at the school.
Mm-hmm. And for you, as principal of the elementary school, what does a day look like? How are you involved in that culture, in that life?
Well, I'm a very hands-on person in terms of meeting and being in the hallways and meeting people. So I'm every morning, once we come in, we have our before school program. So I arrive, we have the entry time, and I try to every day get upstairs, walk to the hallways, say hello to everybody, speak to the parents in the hallways because they're allowed into the school to drop off their children. Speak to the teachers, try to say hello to each teacher every morning, and get a good start to the day. And then I will go down and we do our national anthem. That's how my day usually starts. It is not unusual for a parent to drop by and say, do you have a couple of minutes? And we'll talk about one issue or another issue. We have a very open door policy at Bond. To me, communication is critical, and getting to know people is important. Reality is everybody's going to have an opinion of you. But if you don't have any information about you or know anything about you, that opinion is going to be based on other people's thoughts or what they believe. I strongly believe that you need to make yourself visible and to be involved in the school life so that when there is an issue, and there will be, that they will feel comfortable coming to talk to you.
In terms of the culture at Bond, specifically in the years that you're involved with, can you describe what some of the values and descriptors of that culture is?
Well, it's a hard culture to describe because it's a feeling you get when you walk in the building. I worked for many years as a principal in many schools, and I strongly believe that you can feel the culture of a school, how they deal with people by walking into it. You can feel it by the way people respond to you. So the culture there is one of openness and friendliness and welcoming. One of the things that I always tell parents who are interested in Bond is, we don't have open houses. And the reason we don't have the open house is because you see a building. The school is not the building.
Mm.
The school is the people in it and how they interact. So you cannot get a sense of a school by seeing a building. So a school is an experience you need to have when you walk into it, seeing how the children are smiling or are happy, how they interact in the hallways, how they treat each other. And even as simple things as simply holding the door open for somebody and saying thank you when they do, because all that does is build a whole sense of culture like that. So a lot of it is leading by example. And it's amazing how quickly new staff and new students adapt to that culture, because that is the culture. And it's hard to explain. Some people have described it as a family-like atmosphere. And others have described it as a very friendly community. But to put it into words is hard to explain. It's, as I said in parents, you have to experience it. And the reason that's important is it's the workplace of the students and the staff. And if you're going to that workplace every day and you enjoy being there and it's balanced with laughter and fun and hard work and dedication, it makes the hard work easier. It makes the willingness to learn stronger and to get involved in the school stronger. So we basically submerge everybody into the culture once they walk into the school. We open at 7, we close at 6. Not everybody's there at 7, thank goodness, because that would be a long day for a lot of the children. But it is evident in all parts of our school, in the classrooms, in our curriculum, in terms of we have a very strong character ed program which talks about dealing with people and treating people fairly and being inclusive. Not as lessons, but as, well, there are lessons, of course, but more about applying it to every day in the school and treating situations of a bit of conflict, but building those elements into it in terms of how you treat others and how other people see you. And I think our approach to that is learning through self-control as opposed to external control of how to deal with people.
And how do you teach self-control versus external control? Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, when conflict happens, I can give you multiple examples. That's how our code of behavior is built around a process. And the process is we listen to everybody, we get everybody's information without judgment, without comment. And then we pull the facts together, talk to everybody that we feel that has something to contribute, and then go over the facts. How are these the facts? Do you disagree, or can you add something to it? As we've been told, how do you think you contributed to the situation, to the conflict? How could you have de-escalated the conflict? So the goal is to teach.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about punishment. Sometimes there's a consequence, obviously, but the goal is that if they run into a similar situation in the future, that they will, in fact, hesitate and rethink things. My utopian goal is that if somehow an alien came down and stole all the teachers out of the building, there would not be mass chaos.
Right. Like Lord
Now, that's what I tell the children, and they all have a good laugh about it. But the reality is that's the only type of control that really matters. Because if your control is all about fear of consequence, or fear of being caught, then what happens when there's no fear of being caught? Mm-hmm. You don't treat people the way they should be treated. So it's a matter of teaching people how others see them. most children, if you ask them, how do you want people to describe you? And I always ask them this, how do you want people to describe you? They'll, they'll want good things said about them, that they're popular, that they're intelligent, they're a good student, they're a good athlete, that they're a good musician. None of them want to be described in negative terms. But when you sit down with them and say, but if you don't want to be described as someone being mean, then the best way to do that is not by being mean. If you want someone to say you're kind, then the best way to do that is by being kind. And then I give them tangible examples, because they can say, yes, I understand, but they don't necessarily understand. They say it because they want to please you. I'm quite persistent in going through, okay, in this example, how do we do this? How, when you treated the person that you did in this conflict this way, what does that say about you? Is that what you want people to say about you? If it isn't, then here's how you could have handled it differently so it would have turned out better and made you look better.
Right. What do you think this approach works in younger children? And what do you love about working with the younger years of school?
Well, what I like about it is, well, one thing, a lot of the children that come to our school stay until the end of the elementary division at least. So I have the opportunity to see the growth and the change in them and the maturity in them. I enjoy just watching younger children, because they are so open to learning. They're so open to playing with others. They don't look at color of skin. They just basically are very open people. And then over time, you have to start addressing those who don't necessarily buy into that, or other influences, because I know that we're not the only influence in their lives. So we have to make sure that we try to teach them. I don't like to use the words right or wrong, because it sounds almost religion, but it's not about religion. It's about being a good person. And when you're a good person, everything else falls in place. Basically, everything in our discipline code revolves around treating people with respect, kindness, and dignity. And you don't need to have a list of rules. Because if you have a list of rules, someone can say, yeah, but what I did is not in that list. But if you have it under the umbrella of treating people with respect and dignity, everything follows under that umbrella. And getting back to your original question, I just enjoy teaching and watching people learn, and watching people think about learning, and seeing them make changes in the way they approach things.
And you said that you've been a principal in other places before you arrived at Bond. And what surprised you when you first started working there, or first visited there for the first time?
Well, first of all, I worked in the public system for many years. I worked for the Department of National Defense in Ottawa, their schools. I worked in the Toronto District School Board as a teacher and as a vice principal and as a principal. So when I came to Bond, I came to open the school. So they hired me to open the school. And I had many years of experience, and I'm a strong believer in focusing on program and using that to teach children, and a strong believer in the use of non-instructional methods to develop children. By that I mean is, you don't go to the gym to build a better body by only working on one arm. You don't build a better student by only focusing on math and English. So you have to give them other opportunities to grow. You have to give them the opportunity to develop their self-esteem and confidence. And if they can't be successful in academics, then how can they build that confidence and that self-esteem? That's a critical piece, because basically you need to make mistakes to learn. If you're not willing to make mistakes, you will not learn. You will only do what you know. So we want children who are risk takers, that are willing to make a mistake and learn from it. And that's the approach. So basically, we can develop that confidence and that self-esteem through programs such as music. We have talent shows, we have choirs, we have bands. Because if they're successful in a band, or they're successful in a team, or if they're walking up to a foul shot in the middle of a championship game, that's risk taking. Mm. And when they make that shot, that confidence, that self-esteem carries over into everything they do. So we look for opportunities for every child to find a place to shine, to build that confidence. And sometimes it's in Zoom classes, or excuse me, in Zumba classes, not Zoom classes. Zoom class. Or it could be in a math club, or it could be in a library club, or it could be almost anything, because you just never know what it is that will appeal to a child. And every teacher in that school, their goal is to build confidence and self-esteem by positive reinforcement. Because the reality is, you need those tools to be successful in life. And believe it or not, one of my programs that I feel the most strongly about as a useful tool is drama. Many parents sometimes would say, well, why do we have drama? Because math is more important. And I will counter that with simply, no, math is very important. But your ability to think on your feet, to improvise, to sell yourself, to convince others of something that they may not know about you, is a more critical skill you'll have in your life. Part of our program is physical health. We have gym every day. Our children get exposure to exercise from 8 to 8:40 in the morning. They have access to a gym or the schoolyard. They get 40 minutes a day of gym, or one day they have swimming instead of gym. They get another lunch hour, of course. They get playtime. And after school, in our after school program from 4:30 to 5:30, we have open gym activities or out in the yard. To me, physical health is critical. It's the most important thing in your life, really. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. So we have a very strong phys ed program. The teacher, Mr. Kearney, basically runs it as a physical development of their skills. And he works in terms of teaching them about life, and about life skills, and about being strong, and about being persistent and consistent, and uses that in the tools of building within the classroom their physical strength. But with physical strength comes mental strength. Right. If you feel confident in your body, you feel confident in your mind.
At Bond Academy has the benefit of having the full school experience from elementary through to high school. So, and you also have the experience of seeing students grow up. So do you see, what is that relationship between the elementary and the high school years? And what's the bonus that you see with Bond students in having the ability to remain in that environment throughout their school experience?
I believe that, well, first of all, there's a lot of interaction between elementary and secondary staff and students. So for instance, um, two of our teachers teach both elementary and secondary. We have intramural games with staff and students, and so we have secondary staff playing with students, both elementary and secondary, and floor hockey games and so on, volleyball. So they get that relationship. The school is not massive in terms of size. So there's a lot of times when we will overlap or come in contact with each other. So they're familiar with those teachers. So there's that continuity there. And when the students from grade 8 go to grade 9, not all of them do, but ones that do, then there's that reach back where they are connecting with the grade 8s because they knew them when they're in grade 7. So there's that connection there. So that, I think, allows us to maintain the relationships. The parents that go into grade 9 and 10 and 11 still know me as the elementary principal. They still drop by to talk to me. They still talk to our administrative assistant, who is amazing with people. There's that connection that continues. So it's not like a change, but simply a continuation. So we are trying to promote that more and more all the time, and build up our secondary continuity. The downside to being a smaller school is you can't always give children all the social benefits that they might like in a larger school. So, but in all fairness, I don't necessarily see that negatively. My goal is to prepare children for the real world. And our goal and my goal is as a principal. And if they have the confidence to leave a smaller school and go into a large secondary school and take on the programs there successfully and get involved in the activities successfully, what better reason to exist than to say, yes, we have provided that child with those skills and that confidence to take on that experience, because it's scary for them, but they do it. And that is, I think, speaks to our success, because at some point they got to get into the real world.
Right. And is there an area or something that you see Bond Academy growing with or expanding into over the next 5 or 10 years?
I think one area that we seem to really be blossoming in, and it's sort of just evolved, is basketball. Through our sports program. Phil may have mentioned that to you. I don't really know how it happened, but over the years through our sports programs, and we have multiple sports programs, volleyball, basketball, badminton, baseball, soccer, and they're all popular. But basketball has just taken on a life of its own. The Raptors winning last year didn't hurt, but we were there before that, and I don't really understand how it happened. But right now, it seems that we're able to tap into that by having developmental programs in our secondary program as part of our academics, plus the phys ed, but is mostly with basketball. So they are basketball players who are high end that also want to have a good place to go to school. So we provide the academics. Our partner Phase One provide the training. We do it together. So if a basketball player is not doing their academics well, then we'll meet with the training staff and we work as a partnership with the parents to make sure that's dealt with. Because I go back to my original comment, you need to be a well-rounded person. And you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. You may be a great basketball player, But what happens if you get injured and you can never play basketball again?
Mm-hmm.
Or what, you're not as good as you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have something to fall back on. So we place a high emphasis on academics. I know that's critical to fill
Right.
in terms of making sure that happens. So I think basketball might be one area that it will continue. Online learning seems to be another one that has been very successful. We do a lot of that internationally already. We already did it. So it wasn't a big leap for the secondary at all to get into that. And I've been quite impressed about how well we've been able to introduce the online learning as well into the elementary division. Is it replacement for what's there now in a real school? No. You cannot replace day-to-day interacting with people face-to-face. Zoom and Google Meet can give you some examples of that, but it's not the same. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a chance down the road, depending on circumstances, but it appears that more and more people are reaching out for online programming or homeschooling through online programming. That may be another area that we will look at down the future, not to replace what we're doing, but simply as an extension of it.
Right. And is there anything else that you want to say about bonds, specifically the elementary years?
I don't know what I may have missed or not missed, but I think if I was talking to somebody who's interested in bond, because they may have heard something, or maybe what they read, or what our approach is, or something that they may know about us, is simply come in and visit us. That's our selling tool. Basically, if someone's interested, we invite them in. We walk around the school with them so they can see, and then we offer 2 to 3 days for their children to attend our school. There's no charge for that. There's no expectation with that. It's simply, if I'm going to buy a car, I want to test drive it. So why would we expect anything less of a school? So, okay, you in. If you want, we can tell you all we want. You can see what's happening, but it's your children that have to be happy. And we have to see it's a good fit. So if they come in, then we say, join us for 2 or 3 days. They do, and then we'll meet again and we'll talk. One thing that I do not believe in is being elitist. I will not be called the head of school. I won't accept that. I'm the principal. And principal meaning principal teacher.
Right.
So the basic reason behind that is I want to sell to the parents or tell the parents when they bring a child in who may have special needs or maybe struggling in school. My way of looking at it is not, are you good enough for us, but are we good enough to help you? Mm. In other words, I don't want to take your child if I can't help them. So if we don't have the resources to help, then why would I take your money? Mm-hmm. Because my goal is that every child that comes into that building will improve. They all may not be A students that come in, but that's okay. Not everybody is at the top. Everybody cannot be at the top. But if we can make you a better person, if we can improve so you can be the best that you can be, then that's the important goal. And I do not believe in sitting back and saying, okay, we don't do huge exams, we don't do SAT tests. Basically, I want to see your history. Show me your report cards. So I can see, okay, yes, you look like you've had some difficulty in school. And I find out why they felt they had difficulty in school. So if I can help solve that deficit by bringing them into bond, then I will welcome them. I will make that offer. It's not about you being a top IQ or a top student. It's about someone who wants to change and with someone who wants to improve, and parents that want to make that happen. So that's the core of my way of looking at new registrations.